Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Wanted to call the meeting to order. Seat Community Board 17's Land Use Committee meeting for December 1st, 2022. Good evening again. Uh, we'll, in the interest of time, I'll go past the greetings and introductions, and we'll take a roll call later on in the meeting. I don't believe we have quorum yet to vote on the approval of the minutes. So I will just move right into the chairperson's report in the interest of time. So on 11/18, I was contacted by the board chair. He has some concerns about a construction hazard at 152 Erasmus Street. Apparently, they were hoisting materials in the street. They didn't have the proper barricades, flag people, and traffic diversions to actually, prevent congestion from happening in the area. He contacted me after he initially spoke to them. We passed by and they actually responded accordingly, which was a positive thing. I mentioned that as a small thing that I usually don't mention, but I mentioned it this time to show that sometimes a little vocalness goes a long way. So if you see something, obviously do your initials and contact 311 as usual, but feel free to reach out to us and maybe we throw a couple of names around, a couple of titles around, and actually get something shaken up a bit. You know, that was a small win. Small win. In regards to the homeless shelter expansion, I've been feverishly, and Miss Fraser could attest that I've been feverishly trying to get in contact with the Community Board 9 Europe chair. I haven't had any success with that. So ultimately, last week I decided to get in contact with their board chair direct, which resulted in I guess my aggression resulted in an immediate response, and we're in the process of coordinating a meeting for next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. I've asked Miss James to come with me to that meeting. She has some history on the matter, so just to make sure that we're prepared to have that discussion openly, it will be myself, Mr. Daly, Miss James, and the board and your lip chair for Community Board 9. So sorry it took so long, but I tried. I tried my hardest, but I didn't want to pull out the aggressive card until I had to, and I did, and that worked. So maybe I should pull it out sooner next time. And as for the Department of Design and Construction, they will not be doing a presentation tonight as previously stated. When the executive board met, I guess the impact of the actual Shirley Chisholm Community Center, the discussion showed that it does affect the board as a whole. Ultimately, when we left that discussion, I believe Ms. Frazier and Mr. Daly suggested that we actually had a joint meeting with Parks and Recreation. I've been in contact with Ms. Ballard to try to coordinate that, but ultimately, I think the decision was that the DDC will present at our general board meeting on December 21st. So they'll be there. They'll be doing a presentation. They'll be hopefully giving us an idea of what actually was coming to the community center, and ultimately the letter that we drafted that actually Allison helped draft, which I appreciate. I didn't distribute. I decided not to distribute it. I feel like we should wait to find out what this initial presentation is, and once we have more information, we still have the letter drafted. Um, the board is and the executive members are aware that we are still drafting the letter, but just to have a more informative and more fluid letter, I decided to wait until after that presentation to distribute it. So yes, in regards to that, you want to be present at the general board meeting this month. The DDC will be there, and they will be discussing that project in its totality. And hopefully, you have your questions and the history of the committee members have their asks, and they could act at that point in time accordingly. And just this evening, there will be a public hearing for the Standard Board of Boards and Appeals on December 5th. In regards to a contractor, he is looking for an extension to complete a construction project on 1106-1109, 1108 Utica Avenue. Apparently he had an extension to convert a three-story family building, and it expired on the 6th, and he's looking for an extension to complete. I'm going to do my best to be there to see what happens at that hearing, being that it's been previously approved to go forward. I'm just going to go there just to see what comes of it ultimately, and that completes my report. Do we have any questions? Please raise your hand, or put it in the chat so I can respond. Anybody? Okay.
Kwame, I actually have a question.
Hello?
I just wanted
Hello?
to know whether or not arrangements are going to be made so that people who are just in the public can actually speak at that meeting with that presentation the DDC will have. Because generally, obviously, only board members get to speak at these community board meetings.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what we wanted initially, which is why we tried to have the side meeting. But I'll have to talk to Ms. Frazier. I mean, it is a public hearing thing, so it does affect the community. I can't see how we could not allow the community input at that point in time, right? In the past, that's been practice, but in this particular matter, I don't know if that could be practice for this. You know, I'll get some information on that, and I'll get back to you on that. You're right; it's a fair point, which is why we wanted it at the committee level first. But we didn't want or I guess not we, but I guess they didn't want the meeting to not happen in a timely manner. So this is just the beginning of it, and we'll see. But definitely, I'll look into some equitable community input and community engagement in regards to the matter. Fair enough.
That's fine.
Any other questions? I must have did good. Did good this time.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Who's speaking?
Yes, my name is Monica. I wanted to know, you mentioned something about a homeless shelter. I didn't quite get the gist of it. Could you repeat that, please?
Okay. There's a homeless shelter that's going to be expanded.
Hello?
Yes. Could you hear me?
I don't know. Something went wrong. Can you take it from the top?
Sure. There's a homeless shelter that actually is primarily on Community Board 9's district, but it does bleed into our borders a bit. There was concerns in a couple of meetings back of what their position was on it and how we should address it moving forward. We've been getting communicated from some external people about their positions on it, and ultimately we wanted to find out what Community Board 9's position was on it. Actually, it affects them more than us, but
Okay.
it was just a conversation that we wanted to be a part of, and we wanted to just make sure that we were all on the same page in regards to that expansion.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hi, my name is Joan. I live on Whitty Lane, and I just got off work, so I got into this meeting late. Someone had dropped off a flyer on Whitty Lane about the facility that may be constructed by Amazon in the back here, and I was wondering whether or not you had already discussed that.
No, that hasn't been discussed yet.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
The upcoming next. We're just doing the initials, and the presentation should be coming up shortly. So you're right on time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And around. All right. So in the fairness of our presenters being that they're present, and hopefully that so I could do a count to make sure that we have quorum, I'm going to hand the floor over to, is it Miss Chapman? You're muted, Miss Chapman. You're muted.
My apologies. Actually, the presentation will be by Ellie
Right.
from our office. Yes,
Thank
Ellie.
you. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair.
The floor is yours, Ellie.
Hi, can people hear me first of all? Yes, okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
great. And what about, can you see me? I don't know if my video is working, unfortunately.
I don't see you visually, no.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry that I would have wanted to be visible, but it hasn't been working. I apologize for that. But if you can hear me, that's great. And also, I'm going to share a presentation, so I can do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. 1 second. Okay, everyone can see the presentation now?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, well, thank you again so much for having us present here tonight. We really appreciate your time. So we're here tonight. My name is Ellie Gewurtz from David F. Hutcher & Citrin. I'm joined by Melissa Chapman, who already introduced herself. She's our government relations and community relations specialist. I'm also joined by my colleague Howard Weiss. We're here tonight. We are presenting this application pre-certification, so meaning it has not been certified as complete yet by the Department of City Planning. We came here before certification because we wanted you guys to be aware of the project that we're proposing and to ask any questions or raise any concerns you may have so we could do our best to address them before the project officially starts the public review process, which would begin once the project is certified. We were told by the Department of City Planning that the project should be certified around February. So we're looking, approximately 2 months from now. So here is our application, is to construct a self-storage facility here at 5381 Kings Highway in Community District 17. It's in the East Flatbush neighborhood of Brooklyn. So again, I'm from David F. Hutcher & Citrin. The applicant and the owner of the site is Clarendon Holding. The reason why we need an action from the Department of City Planning, this is for a special permit to construct a self-storage facility in a manufacturing district located in sub-area 2, as shown on the maps in Appendix J of the zoning resolution. So there are certain areas where the city, where in manufacturing districts, the city zoning resolution requires you to get a special permit in order to build a self-storage facility. And that is why we needed to bring this action in front of the Department of City Planning, because we are in this sub-area 2. And if we were to get the special permit, we'd be proposing to develop a 5-story self-storage building. It would contain 73,715 square feet of floor area, and it's located on block 7949, lot 58. And we're going to show some maps and photographs so everyone could be more familiar with the site. Again, to orient ourselves, so the site fronts Kings Highway. Whitty Lane is to the immediate north. To our south is the Long Island Railroad Bay Ridge Division right-of-way. And we are also in the Fairfield Flatland Industrial Business Zone. So industrial business zones are areas, again, that the city has designated to be used for industrial, for manufacturing type uses, and they don't want to see any residential uses in these industrial business zones. So here's just a map from the city's zoning resolution, which shows how our site is within this sub-area 2, and that's why the special permit is required to build the self-storage facility. This is an aerial view of our site. You see it's an irregular shaped lot. It's a flag shape. We only have 30 feet of frontage here along Kings Highway. And here you see the homes along Whitty Lane to our immediate north. And here you see the Long Island Railroad right-of-way to our immediate south. Again, here's our tax lot with you seeing the homes to the north again, and here's the right-of-way from the Long Island Railroad. Here's our zoning map. So our site here is indicated by the star. We're in an M11 district. So M11 is manufacturing use. So the self-storage facility would be permitted as of right, but for the fact that it's located in this sub area 2, which requires the special permit to construct the self-storage facility. Here is our land use map, which just shows the surrounding uses around us. You see within the M11 district, there's a lot of other industrial uses to the immediate south and to the immediate west, and to the immediate north, you see these single to one and two family homes along Whitty Lane, and further north of that is the Clarendon Gardens housing complex, which has a series of multifamily buildings. So this gives you a sense of some of the uses within our immediate surrounding area. This is a map here showing where the other self-storage facilities are within a quarter-mile radius of our site. So if you see here the number 1, the star, this is a clutter self-storage that's at 5601 Foster Avenue. It's pretty close to our site, just about 0.4 miles here to the southeast. And then the second self-storage facility that exists within a quarter-mile radius is right here, number 2, it's at 1414 Ralph Avenue, and it's a Stop and Store Canarsie self-storage facility. So again, we're showing this to show that the area is not overly saturated with self-storage facilities, and that we feel that there is a demand for self-storage in this area. Just some photographs of the site. So this is the entrance to the site with the rolled up with gate currently up, showing access to the site along Kings Highway. This building here to the immediate south, that is not part of our client's property. This is just a 1-story warehouse. And then to the immediate north, you have 1 and 2 family homes here along Kings Highway. So our site is about 97 feet south of Whitty Lane, which is up here to the north. Again, this is our site looking north on Kings Highway. Our site is here to the right, the entrance. Here's just a more zoomed out view of our site, looking at it from the south, facing southeast from Kings Highway. This is the site facing south. Foster Avenue is to the right, and our site is here to the left. This is the other side of Kings Highway, facing northwest from our site. See, it's a three-lane wide street, Kings Highway, going north, and it's 2 lanes going south. Again, this is looking across the street from our site, looking on the other side of Kings Highway.
1 second, Gerwitz. Ms. Frazier, can you mute? Give me the host key, and I guess I'll mute everybody.
I just did.
Thank
You
you.
could continue.
Ellie, you can just unmute yourself and continue. Thank you. And everyone, just reserve your questions until after Mr. Gerwitz is done. Thank you. Ellie, you're muted. Ellie. Yeah, you're still muted, Ellie.
Yeah, I think I muted him by mistake. I muted everyone, so.
Yeah, you just need to unmute yourself, Ellie, again.
I'm not seeing his number, his name.
Yeah, E-L-I.
Probably called in.
The name isn't showing
Oh,
up,
yeah,
but if you
I got
click
it.
on
I got it.
the
I just sent him a request to unmute himself.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did that work?
Yes, that worked. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so let me just want to move this over, get back to my screen. Apologize. to move this over. So I'm just going to stop the share for 1 second. Okay. I want this in large. But I can't see it. Oh, I apologize. I'm just trying to see my screen again so I can continue with the presentation.
Yourself together.
How do I minimize this? It's just the WebEx is blocking my presentation. I'm sorry.
You can minimize the WebEx because your screen is being shared.
Okay, yeah. No, but I'm not seeing a minimized option.
Because we don't even see your WebEx at all.
Okay, yeah, but it's blocking my entire presentation, so, and I'm trying to minimize it. Active speaker view, like I want to see this in large. I'm sorry, let me just try. Let me try one more time to unshare and then reshare. Okay. Minimize that. But I need to. Okay. But it keeps going there. I don't know.
Ali, would you like me to try sharing from my screen perhaps and see if that works?
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
I'm
One
sorry,
moment,
everyone.
please.
Yeah. Just.
That's a
I'll try
brilliant.
to share it from my screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does everyone see the screen?
Okay, yes, I see it. Is there a way to make it larger?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I guess, Melissa, you'll have to be the one to change the page.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So I believe we were,
Yes, we were up to page 16.
okay.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. So, yeah, so this is looking at the site across the street from our site, excuse me. Our site, this is looking across Kings Highway. You see the B7 bus stops right in front of our site. Next slide, please. So now we're looking at this is the back of the site. The site also fronts East 56th Street in the back. So this is facing north. So East 56th Street at our site is a dead end. So this is facing north, and you see where it intersects with Whitty Lane. Next slide, please. This is looking straight at the dead end that I just referred to at East 56th Street, facing south. And our site is at the right there and behind those homes along Whitty Lane. Next slide, please. Here's another closer up view. You see how there are gates here. And our site is in the interior there. This is just a view of giving a perspective of what the site looks like with the homes to the immediate north. Those are the back of the homes along Whitty Lane. And that's our site there to the left. Okay, so those are the photographs just to orient everyone. Now we'll explain to you our actual proposal. This is just our survey, which shows the irregular lot, this flag-shaped lot. So you see we have 30 feet of frontage along Kings Highway. and approximately 19 feet of frontage along East 56th Street. So there really isn't a lot of street frontage here. The bulk of the lot is an interior lot, as you can see here from this survey, and the lot area is 73,975 square feet. Okay, next slide, please, Melissa. So this is just a perspective of what the building would look like looking from Kings Highway. You see it's going to be 5 stories. It's going to be 62 feet tall at the roof. And then there's going to be this decorative clock tower, which the clock tower portion, which is along the northwestern elevation here, would bring the clock tower would rise to 85 feet. And you see also from the front, we'd be bringing in a nicer looking gate and a self-storage sign above the gate from the Kings Highway entrance. Next slide, please. Here's a closer view of the new gate that we would be installing and the self-storage sign above. So this is the view from the back of the lot from East 56th Street. Again, the Whitty Lane homes are off to the north. And this is just to mention that I know the rendering doesn't show it here, but there will not be any access to the site from East 56th Street. All vehicular and pedestrian access will be limited to the Kings Highway entrance. Okay, this is just our zoning analysis, just some basic facts about the proposal. So as I mentioned before, it's going to consist of 73,715 zoning square feet, but in total, gross square feet is 88,458 because that includes the cellar space. There would be self-storage units in the cellar as well. It's going to be 5 stories, 62 feet tall. We're proposing 12 parking spaces and 6 loading berths. And we could see that. Next slide, please. So this is our proposed site plan. I'm sorry, Melissa, just go back to the previous slide. Great, thank you. So yeah, this is our proposed site plan. So you see entrance is from Kings Highway. It's a 30-foot wide driveway entering from Kings Highway. We're also going to be providing at the southern side here of this driveway a 5-foot pedestrian path with striping dedicated for pedestrians. You see where the building starts is beyond 200 feet from Kings Highway, so it's very set back from Kings Highway. Additionally, if you see the distance between our proposed developments, right, the proposed self-storage facility is this blue box here in the middle. We're also going to be approximately 60 feet from the actual homes along Whitty Lane. Because if you see, we're providing, this is a 34-foot wide access driveway between our building and the property line. And then beyond that, all of the buildings along Whitty Lane have approximately 25 to 30-foot rear yards. So from the actual distance between the end of each home and the start of our building would be approximately 60 feet, as you see here. Just to be clear, all of these light gray buildings are not part of our site, again, because we have this unique shaped lot. So these gray buildings here, those are the existing buildings on Kings Highway. Those are not part of our lot. All our lot is going to be this blue building, the building in blue here. We're also showing there's going to be 12 parking spaces being provided and additionally 6 loading berths. We're going to hopefully improve the landscaping around the site. We're going to be providing a stone pavers, decorative stone pavers, as you see here. That's this brown to the south and the eastern parts of the lot. We're going to be providing dense shrubbery, making the site look nice. And additionally, we're going to be constructing an 8-foot fence along this northern property line, providing a shield between our site and the homes along Whitty Lane. So we're really trying to, to a building that fits, contextually within within the surrounding area and being mindful of the surrounding context and the homes that are around us, and trying to build a building that's as least intrusive or obstructive as possible. You can go to the next slide, please, Melissa. Thank you. So again, this is a similar plan. This is just shows the different floor plans. So it's going to, again, it's going to be a 5-story building with elevator access to each of the storage units, where it's going to I should mention the operator of this self-storage facility was going to be Storage Asset Management. And they think it's going to contain approximately 800 to 850 storage units. That's going to be in the cellar and on all 5 floors. There'll be a little reception area when you walk in, where there's always going to be an employee working there, and it is going to be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's supposed to serve the local population here. Their intention is to serve, people within a 2 to 3 mile radius. We're expecting maximum 11 to 12 cars on a given day coming in to access their storage units. So we're providing more than enough parking for any cars that would be coming into the site to access their storage unit. In terms of other vehicles, where the expectation is, if anything, just small box trucks, your typical moving kind of truck for a person who wants to, or a person or a business who wants to bring in, their stuff to use the storage facilities here. Okay, next slide, please, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
This is just our section, how we're showing how we're complying with the zoning. We're way beyond any of the height limits imposed by the M11 district that we're in. We're way below it, and we're showing here we're going to be 62 feet tall. And then lastly, this shows our different elevations. So the western elevation, as I mentioned before, that's going to contain the clock tower. The clock tower portion would rise to 85 feet, but the roof of the building would be at 62 feet. And that concludes our presentation. We'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you.
And I apologize for the technical difficulty.
No, you got there. You got to the finish.
Okay.
Well done. To facilitate the answering or the asking of questions, I ask that everybody that has the ability to raise their hand, and I'll call on you in the appropriate manner that I see. And if you're actually inputting questions into chat, I'd ask if you utilize the Q&A section, just so I can organize the questions and not have to sift through the conversations that may or may not be happening there, so we could get the questions directly to the team here. Okay? So I see Hazel Martinez. Unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening. I have a couple of comments and questions, because number one, we have more than those 2 storage units in the community that you've mentioned. There's several on Glenwood Road off of Utica there. And I don't see the rationale for having yet another one. My other comment is, years ago, when we first moved into this community, that same space was tennis courts. As the community changed, then it became a school bus yard where residents have to breathe in the fumes from school buses. Then it became an Amazon yard where we had that plus Amazon tractor trailers all over the community, was overrun with that. And now you want to put in a storage unit so we can have rodents all over the place. And my concern is for the homes that are directly next to that, where their foundations will be damaged, as was other foundations when these sorts of buildings are put up all along Farragut Road, New York Avenue. And I don't know, how close to the homes is this thing going to be?
Okay, thank you for your questions, Ms. Martinez. So yes, so as I mentioned before, so we're hoping, the plan is that it would be 60 feet, approximately 60 feet from the back of those homes. Again, we're very mindful of the fact that our property is adjacent to those homes. We're really going to do all we can to shield our site, our facility from having any negative impact on those homes. We're going to be providing, a fencing. It's going to be soundproof fencing. Where we're trying to push the building back as much as we can away from those homes. But again, and we're hoping that, as you mentioned, this used to be a school bus depot. We're hoping, the intent is that this use would be much less impactful on the community than a school bus depot, which, as you said, brings in a lot of fumes and traffic. We're not expecting heavy traffic coming in here. Its expectation is a maximum 11 cars per day. If that, this isn't a use where people are coming and going all the time. They go to drop off their stuff and they leave. It's not a hangout. It's not a place that we're expecting to generate a lot of traffic and noise. And we're hoping it would be better and have less impacts than some of the uses that you mentioned in the past, which really were not really great for the community.
But let's face it, developers aren't really community minded for the most part. At least has not been the experience of the community at large. And so when you put in this facility, it's for your improvement, not really for benefit. There is of no benefit to the community, this facility, none at all.
Ms. Martinez, this is Howard Weiss. I work with Ellie and Melissa, and your comments are point well taken, but I just want to point out, and I think this is really important. This property is zoned for manufacturing.
Yep.
And the expansive uses that could otherwise be permitted, in fact, in an M11 district, in fact, could be extremely impactful. A self-storage facility of this nature is, in fact, probably one of the most benign uses that could be developed in the M1 district, because, as Ellie said, and we've been working closely with Storage Asset Management, which operates 545 different facilities across the country and is well experienced. And they were very clear that on the average, there'll be no more than 11 vehicles, passenger vehicles or a minivan or an SUV, coming to this site on a daily basis. So in terms of what could otherwise be permitted as of right, including a school bus depot, when you look at what's being proposed as to the operational aspect and your concerns, this is probably one of the most benign type uses that you could have, particularly adjacent to residential development. The other point is, which is important, and I think your concern is a significant one, how will the construction on this site impact on the Woody Lane homes and the Kings Highway homes that adjoin our site? Well, because the building itself that's being constructed is set back 200 feet from Kings Highway and 60 feet from the Woody Lane homes, there won't be any impact whatsoever on the foundations of the Woody Lane home properties. And that's beyond what needs to be assured with under the city building code for the construction of a facility of this nature. So I think your questions are good questions, but I do think that when you take a step back and you consider what's being proposed, you'll see that among the array of what could occur at the site, this is probably the most compatible.
I don't want to take up all the time, but that is not, I mean, I am not interested in what could be worse, because it's pretty bad there right now. When you have all those vehicles on the street, you have when those meal places are delivering, the street is blocked off. We cannot pass through the service road of Kings Highway. I mean, each one of them, that's already there. And you're going to have 800 to 850 storage units. And how do you guarantee you have 11 vehicles a day?
I can only tell you, and in fact, as Ellie pointed out when we started out this evening, this is a pre-certification presentation because we wanted some time to pass to answer questions, and we won't be coming back before you for at least several months. And I would, in fact, invite you, if you like, we're more than happy and we're totally accessible for us to speak with you. We can have someone from asset management, storage asset management speak with you to be able to show you the numbers, the facts as to how these facilities are operated and why when we say there are on an average going to be 11 vehicles during the course of a day, that's based upon their vast experience. And we're happy to share more information with you. And after this meeting, you know, anyone's invited to be in touch with us so we can provide more information. I should point out, for the benefit of the committee and those here, we actually sent out today letters individually to each of the Woody Lane homeowners and the homeowners on Kings Highway to give them a direct and personal introduction to the project and inviting them individually to be in touch with us over the next several months to address any of their concerns, just as we'd like to address yours, Ms. Martinez.
Okay. Ms. Martinez, I guess I'm not sure if that satisfies your answer, but your hand is still raised. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next question, which I have on my list as Ms. Pendergast. Ms. Pendergast, could you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Eli and Howard, for your information. I have the same concerns that, Ms. Martinez has. One is, there's no way that 850 storage units will only allow 12 vehicles. You know, and your 12 vehicle parking space, we're going to have a bottleneck like we have now with that, the warehouse facility that's there. I understand you're putting out there the beautiful aesthetics surrounding the property, and experience has shown that lasts maybe 60 days after you guys are built and set up and ready to go. And then nobody takes care of it. The other point is, we already have a U-Haul facility down the street, just under the trestle, and they've been there for years. And we as homeowners are constantly having to clean up the fact that they use the dumping, East 56th Street and Woody Lane as a dumping ground. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm sounding off to you, because this is not the case. I'm just trying to get you some points here that we live by. I've been there for 40 years, okay? It's gotten progressively worse in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe longer. Regarding storage facilities and the need for one in that area, I can count right now at least 8 storage facilities, probably bigger than yours that you're trying to build, within a 2-mile radius. I don't see the need for another storage facility. Yes, it may be a benign business. I agree with you, but benign as far as the business owner, not as far as the community and the problems that it will create for the community. I don't live on that side of the block, but I would not like to get up every morning and look at a steel metal building that's blocking my view. You know, those are things that maybe you want to consider, you know, maybe readjust how you're building. Does it have to be 5 stories? You know, you're talking about a cellar. Well, that involves digging. We are already dealing with a salvage yard just across the trestle that every time they crush their metal, our homes shake. So what will that then do to our property? My front porch fell in after years of this situation. So, you know, these are just facts as you're giving us facts. And yes, it is a benign business. No hangout, no, I understand that, but I don't understand as a business, as someone from corporate America that deals with, you know, transportation and how things work. 12 vehicle storage and 6 docks. Well, docks mean trucks. What happens when your people want to get rid of their storage units and they start using, again, like U-Haul does, the dead end as a dumping ground? You know, these are things that we as homeowners, you know, we work very diligently to own our homes and keep it and maintain that block. Woody Lane is a lane. It's in a unique situation in this whole 3-mile radius. So there are things that we are responsible for and things that we cannot do to our homes because it's a unique situation. It's a lane. It's an R4 zoning. You know, so to say that your storage facility is benign, it actually is not benign. It can cause us a lot of problems. As far as 60 feet away from the building, I live 75 feet away, and you know the rodents, the roach, all that stuff comes my way. So 60 feet is not nearly enough. So those are my points regarding this. I don't know, is this been approved and ready to go? Are we just here spinning our words and spinning our tails? I don't know, Mr. Free. What is this process about? Let me ask you that. Other than Eli and Howard proposing what they have planned for our neighborhood.
Are you asking me? Or are you asking?
I'm asking you, actually, yes. Where does this go from here?
Unfortunately, they did state that they have the as of right build, which means that it's currently zoned and it's permissible for them to build this facility without any input from the community. Them actually coming out here now is them, doing an olive branch, so to speak. Maybe your voices and your concerns make adjustments if necessary, but ultimately they have the right to build this facility without any input from the community.
Let me just clarify that, because I certainly don't want anything that we've said to be misinterpreted. What Ellie was saying was that as a general principle, self-storage facilities are permitted as of right in M1 districts, but there are certain M1 districts where you need a special permit from the City Planning Commission. And this site is in one of those sub areas where we need a special permit. And that's why we're before the community board. Today we're here informally just to tell you about what's going on. But within several months, there's going to be an actual application that's going to come before the community board that ultimately will have to be approved by the City Planning Commission for this to be built.
Okay.
So a special permit is like the first cousin of as of right zoning. In other words, the zoning resolution allows it to be there, but you need nonetheless to get it approved by the City Planning Commission. So it isn't really fully as of right, and you do have input. And let me just say the comments that I just heard, understand your concerns. And when we come back, we'll have Alyssa Quill with us from Storage Asset Management, because I think a lot of the concerns that were expressed about the operations and how it impacts, both in terms of traffic impacts, refuse and other issues that burden communities, you'll be able to hear from Alyssa very directly. That number that we put forth, the 12, on the average, the 12 vehicles, that's real. And she'll be able to come forth and give you the dollars and cents proof as to how real that is. So we're here to absorb the concerns, to make sure that when we have to come back to the community board and the community for you to make your recommendation to the City Planning Commission, we will have checked all your boxes. We will have been able to address all of your concerns, all of them very fair concerns, but all of them very fortunately are things that we're going to be able to respond to in a very positive way.
Can I further ask, right now you're planning on business hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., I guess 7 days a week, correct?
That's correct.
So we're talking about a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. And how, like, I'm sure if your business demands need more hours, that you will have the right to do that. So while I understand, what you're putting out is pretty much, yes, the olive branch and letting us know what's going on. And this is the soft version of what your business can be versus, what, where can it go? Where can it go? What are you willing to, what can you do when you have someone on the grounds to maintain the grounds at all times, to monitor where these people put their garbage when they don't want it, when they're cleaning out their storage facility? Because we're also constantly on the 311 regarding this, and so forth.
This building is going to be staffed every day that the building is operating. There will be staff under the supervision of Storage Asset Management that'll be caretakers of this property. This isn't just going to be a building sitting there and people get access and use storage facilities without any supervision. In fact, Storage Asset Management has very strict protocols for those who use their storage units. And in fact, if those protocols are violated, they'll terminate their right to use those storage facilities. So, and we can, because you've asked that question, we'll be sure when we come back the next time around, we'll have those details. In fact, what we'll do is we'll communicate that information to the community board before we even come back again. Because again, I don't minimize any of the concerns. The good news is I can tell you, based upon all the work that we've done with storage asset management, that there are answers to all of this. Even in terms of your concern that there's enough storage in the community and you don't need a facility like this, our client wouldn't be developing this building and storage asset management wouldn't be stepping in here if there were not a market for these types of facilities, and there is. And with whatever exists in the community now, there's still a deficit of available storage, which is why they've elected to develop this facility at the site.
All right, well, you know what? I'll turn it over to Ms. Dupree because she's also on your side, and she was next, actually. We just have to wait and see what happens, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pendergast. The next person on the list is Ms. Dupree. You have to unmute yourself, Ms. Dupree.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am a resident of Woody Lane, and I will be affected by this storage unit. And I've been a resident on this block for over 45 years. Okay. We already are dealing with having all these companies by us. We have DHL, we have Brooklyn Mitsubishi, we have, of course, now Amazon with their vehicles. We have a school by us. We have a bagel shop by us. How many more businesses are we going to have in this community? Because with all these businesses, it's going to plummet our property value. Now you're talking about building a storage unit. First of all, Woody Lane has been dealing with flooding for over 30 years. And there's a problem on that side when it comes to the flooding. All the waters come to Woody Lane. That's on that side. Now we're getting a storage unit. Noise, traffic, rodents. This is our property. I take value in my property. I just remodeled my whole entire house. I don't want a storage unit behind me. People come in, not taking care of the area. We already have problems with DHL, trying to get them to clean. We come out here and we're doing everybody else's job. And this is going to even lower our property. Why do we need all these storage units? This is ridiculous. I see no need for it. I see trouble for us, not for those that come there to work and then they go home. It's problems for Woody Lane, a very quiet and clean block. That's how we want to keep it, noise free. And it's too much. So what are they going to build now? Walmart in the middle of our street? How many more businesses can Woody Lane take? I don't agree to it. I see more trouble on top of trouble. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupree. I'd just like to say I signed letters earlier today that were mailed to you and your neighbors, and I'm serious about inviting you to contact us directly, and I'd love to discuss with you your concerns, and hopefully once we can deal directly, you may have a different view on what we're doing. And that's the only thing I could hope for. So you should receive that letter within the next day or two. And by all means, feel free to be in touch with us. And we'd love to be able to answer your concerns.
Thank you. The next person I have on my list is Alexis. I know you had a question in the chat. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask that question?
Yes, hi. It's actually the same question that I had in the chat.
Okay.
I totally agree with my neighbor's observation. And like the woman who just spoke, our houses are on the side of the lot. So when the gentleman says that it's going to be a couple of feet away from the backyard of our properties, I cannot see from here how many feet that is going to be, because to me it seems as though you'll be building on top of us. I understand what he's trying to do, and it's probably better to have a storage unit there than to have somebody come and build housing. apartment buildings. However, as the other lady pointed out, the houses do shake when when that other company is doing work. So I am concerned about the foundation of our homes, and not just the foundation. Is this company willing to put their money where their mouth is? If if they do go ahead with the building, they get the permit and they build, 5, 10 years from now, will they be willing to send money to fix our foundations if something goes wrong with our home? And I agree with the other lady, we already have a flooding problem here. Is this construction going to cause more problems for us than what we already have? So there are quite a few issues here that we need to get straightened out before before anything is done. And yes, I am looking forward to receiving that letter and making an appointment to speak to this gentleman before they actually get the permit, because we really do have valid concerns. And it's one thing to be a businessman and not living in the neighborhood, because as it is, we are all responsible for our neighborhood, and we're responsible for cleaning and making sure that there aren't any rodents here. So we must know whether or not this company is willing to guarantee that whatever damages are caused to our foundation, whatever other problem occurs with the company that comes here, if they succeed, that they will be willing to fix the damages that will occur here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Alexis. Would you guys like to respond?
The only thing that, I would say is that with respect to the flooding, actually, once this property is improved and it's not any longer a vacant lot and it's going to have its own, it's going to have drainage on its property, to the extent that you're experiencing flooding on Woody Lane, it's not going to be anything emanating from this site, quite the opposite. As to the other concerns, certainly during construction and post-construction, we will work with the neighbors and we will work with the community board to minimize the impacts that one normally experiences during construction. And once the construction is finished, the building will be there. And as I said, operationally, this is a very low intensity use, and you're going to hardly know that anything's going on in the site. And again, Alexis, we'll look forward to speaking with you directly to try to address those concerns.
Thank you. The next
Thank you, sir.
person I had, excuse me, is that Alexis who's speaking?
Oh, yes, I was just saying thank you. I am looking forward to definitely sitting down and speaking with the gentleman.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next person I have on my list is Mr. C. Johnson. I'm not sure if it's a Miss or Miss C. Johnson. You had a question? Oh, Mr. Sorry. You had a question in the chat, but I saw you raised your hand, so I guess you could ask both, elaborating.
Now, no disrespect, but I understand that these gentlemen are developers. So their job is to get this deal done. So they're going to promise us the world. It's going to be nice and clean. And there's only going to be 11 vehicles a day with 800 to 850 units. That's impossible. I used to use a storage facility, and you could, there's 11 people in there in half an hour. You say that you're not going to use East 56th Street as a point of exit or entry. How are you going to have all that traffic just exiting and entering on Kings Highway? Okay. We already have DHL who begins their workday at 4 a.m. Okay. So all we're hearing is trucks backing up and double parking. We have, as a lot of people already brought it up, we have Brooklyn Mitsubishi. They have customers who park, double park, and then they have their body shop who parks busted up cars on the other side. So now we have literally one lane of traffic. Everybody's driving down the double yellow lines, playing chicken with oncoming traffic. Okay, so we're dealing with a lot over here. I don't understand. And what I want to know is where are you getting your data from that we need a storage facility over here? These are all private. We don't need a storage facility. I can understand if there's a lot of apartment buildings, but you have a lot of one-family homes here. We do not need a storage facility. I mean, on East 80th Street and Foster, there used to be a Burger King, a huge lot. There was a Burger King and a parking lot. That is a massive lot. Why can't you go over there? Foster Avenue is more of a commercial area. Why do you need to stuff this in our neighborhood? That's
The,
all I
the
have to say.
facility, and I appreciate your comment. This is presently a vacant piece of industrial property that needs to be economically used and developed. If it's not going to be this, it'll be something else. And the something else would be the more traditional manufacturing facility that would really generate significant traffic, because then you're talking about, if it's warehousing or manufacturing, you're talking about tractor trailer trucks and such. That's all as of right. So it's not simply that it's the storage facility or nothing. If it's not the storage facility, then you're going to be looking at the development of something very different, potentially, that's permitted as of right in the manufacturing zone. And I appreciate whatever you may be experiencing with, automobile type businesses that generate cars that with repairs, and that there's cars in disrepair that are being dumped on the streets. I appreciate concerns about a business like DHL. This is none of that. That's not what a self-storage facility is. But I will tell you that the alternative will be something more significant in terms of impacts, given the fact that, like it or not, you would join a manufacturing district. And not only is it manufacturing use, even if my client, which owns the property, even if they wanted to develop housing there, they couldn't, and they couldn't even rezone this for residential. So the only thing that's permitted here, because it's in an industrial business zone as well as a manufacturing district, is a manufacturing type use. And I truly believe that in terms of what we're proposing, it's a lot less significant in terms of impacts than what otherwise would be permitted here as of right. So the choice isn't this self-storage facility or nothing. The choice would be the self-storage facility or something else that could be developed as of right in the manufacturing district that you probably would want to see a lot less.
I understand where you're coming from, but you keep bringing up alternatives and choices. How do we know this storage facility isn't going to fail in 3 years? The building is already up. Who do we know you're going to be selling this property to? We don't need this. We don't need this over here.
So
That's what I have to say.
can I say that, yes, Howard?
Ms. Pendergrass, sorry. There's a
Oh,
lot
okay,
of people
go
that
ahead.
have a lot of questions, and in fairness to them, you had your time. I'm gonna have to give them the opportunity to speak as well. I do have you on my list, and I will circle back. Please just write down your question, and I'll only come back to you. Appreciate it. The next person on my list is Adele Bennett.
Mr. Chairman, can we just make one point to Mr. Johnson's concern?
Absolutely.
If this would fail as a self-storage facility, the owner of the property would have to go back to the City Planning Commission, who in turn would turn back to the community in order to do anything else here. Because it's a special permit, the only use that will be allowed in this building is a self-storage facility. So this building can't be altered, and the use can't be changed without approval of the City Planning Commission, which, as the Land Use Committee of the board knows, means that City Planning is going to have to turn back to you and go through this process all over again. So that's one of your safety valves, Mr. Johnson, against the possibility that if this business fails, what's going to happen? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Ms. Bennett? Adele Bennett?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I'm Adele Bennett, and I'm a committee member with this zoning. And my question to you is in regard to the distance between the building line and the yard. You said a driveway you're going to put in that is going to abut their properties in the back? The exact width and distance and length?
So, yeah, can you guys still see our screen with the site plan?
No.
But
Okay,
including
so
the
yeah, I want to
do not
bring this. I want to bring the
include
site plan back up so we could all look at it.
Melissa, could you do that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So yeah, Melissa, it's on page 27.
Okay, I see it now.
Oops.
Okay, so yeah, if you can just zoom in a little bit, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the way the driveway works, so you see here, so this is the property line boundary is this dashed black line here. Right, so that's where our client's property ends, and that's where the properties of the Whitty Lane homeowners begin. But as you
That's going to be essentially a two-way driveway.
So yeah, so it's a 2-lane driveway. So at the start from Kings Highway, it would be 30 feet wide. And then the southern portion here in brown, right next to the gray building, that's 5 feet wide for pedestrians. So we're talking 25 feet for the vehicles and 5 feet for pedestrians. And then as you get beyond the existing building here that's shown in this gray, then the driveway widens after you get to where our proposed facility would start. It widens to 34 feet. And that's for fire department access, right? If they ever a fire emergency vehicle needs to access the site. So where our building is, right from the start of our building to the property line would be 34 feet. And then on top of that, as you see what we provided here in this plan in the gray which shows on top of, these are the homes along Whitty Lane. Most of these homes, right, that's the footprint of the actual homes. So you see there's approximately 25 to 30 feet between the black dash line and the actual homes along Whitty Lane. Because
I'm sorry, but that is a yard, correct?
Yes.
Right, yeah, so those are yards, exactly, right? Because in the R4 district,
property line, exactly their property line, because most people use their yards. So you cannot exactly factor in somebody else's property into your program. That does not make sense.
So
that's the property line, that's not your use. Factoring it in, no, you can't do that. I say factor it out and show it for what it is. Also, are you aware that that property underneath those, in this area of the history, because it was farmland originally, there's water underneath those grounds. A lot of water. So if you said you're going to excavate and dig, what are you going to do about that if you disturb it? Because it runs the length from Farragut all along the Long Island Railroad. This underground stream. Hello?
So yeah, so it's a valid question, but again, in order to get any permits to build, we're going to be working with, the various city agencies, the Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Transportation, Department of Building. So these are things that we're going to have to work out with all of the city agencies before we can get any building permits to build here. So that would address, stormwater runoff issues, flooding issues, concerns that you have regarding excavation. Those are all things that are just built in to the city review process before being able to get any building permits to build. So those are things.
I'm not talking about piping. I'm talking about an underground stream that has been there from the get-go.
Well, that clearly is something that the architects and engineers working with the buildings department will have to resolve. Clearly, you can only build what, from an engineering perspective, can be built. And, they've already done some of the geotech work. And clearly, if something couldn't be constructed, it can't be constructed. Right now, what we're seeking to do is to get the zoning authorization, then to go forward with the buildings department, because this is only the beginning of a process. Once city planning grants a special permit and we have zoning approval, then like any other project, you have to go through the exhaustive process with the buildings department as well as
I'm
DEP
fully
to be able to get your permits.
I'm fully aware. I've been on the zoning committee for some time.
So I respect your question and based upon,
I hear nobody mentioning it, nobody considering it, because once you disturb what's under that ground, you can't eliminate the water. You got to find out where's it going to run to. It's going to run underneath their homes. That's nature. It's going to redirect itself. That's what the homeowners need to look into. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Are you good with your responses?
yes,
Sorry.
thank you.
Okay,
Right
excellent.
now,
The next,
no.
okay. All right. Ms. Martinez, Allison, you're up.
Good evening. I wanted to just say a couple things. One, this is why it's better to start with community first. If you had come to, start the letters and the outreach beforehand, you would have gotten all of this community history that you don't find looking on GIS systems and all of that, where you would have known these are the issues with the stream and all those concerns that people have already experienced. That's why this has to be done differently. I think also if the existing owner had worked with or thought about engaging the other massive business owners that are in the area that don't do anything to help fix the problems with the dumping and all of that, going by the underpass, all of those areas over there, that's where you build the community trust, because they would see that you're actually involved and not just extracting money from your business, but you actually look at how you can help resolve problems within the community itself. And we just don't see that. I think I also want to know whether or not you've already consulted with DOT at all, because I don't see how that service road is already so heavily trafficked with the automobile lot, the fruit stand that's there, and all of that. It's already highly impacted by all the business that exists there. I don't see how adding this makes any sense, especially when you have, the governor even thinking about putting back that rail line into commuter transit. So all of those things will have an environmental impact as well. I don't see that in the plans, any thought about, adding any type of environmental uses on the rooftop or anything to help the area at all with air quality or anything. I also just want to have you looked into the fact that you'll probably need a brownfield study because of the prior historical uses in that area. We had to have that with the Target because of the plastics factory that used to be there and all of that. So it just seems to me that there's a lot of work to be done. And if we could see some actual listening and investment in community issues, then I still personally would not vote in favor of this project, but at least it would to me make more sense to even consider it if it seemed like the owners and the facilities were actually cared at all about the community outside of what they can take out in terms of revenue.
So let me just say to your concern about the subsurface environmental conditions, there's already been a phase 2 done with respect to this site as part of the city environmental quality review. And this is not a brownfield site. This is not a site that's going to require any significant remediation. So that's not an issue. As to your other concerns, part of it is an operational issue that relates to other things going on in the community. Your point's well taken, but a lot of the other issues are things that were considered as going forward. In other words, this facility and the development of this site wasn't planned in a vacuum. It's been in the works for a while, and a lot of what you've expressed by way of concerns are things already considered. And I can only say, going forward, in terms of the actual development and operation of the facility, you have someone who is interested in working with the community board and the community with respect to the operation of this site.
Okay, so also, then I want to see that in the presentation. Like if there's an environmental impact that we could see where you've considered that, then show it to us. Where there are going to be licensing agreements with the homeowners and that background, because they do have a lot to be worried about in terms of the already fragile infrastructure in the area that has not been addressed for years, for decades, really. So, you know, they do, I'd want to see a commitment to that. And then what about the impact in terms of sunlight on their backyards with this? Where's the review of what impact that could have?
That's something that's examined as part of the companion seeker review. As you know, or you may know, certainly the members of the committee are aware that any land use action that comes before the community board and then goes to the city planning commission has to have a city environmental quality review, and there's an array of impacts that are looked at, including traffic, noise, air, and shadow studies. And again, the seeker review on this did not identify any impacts that should raise any concerns.
And again, I'll just point out the environmental assessment statement is available online, and we could share it with your chairperson if we could send it to him. And if you know, if anyone wants to take a look at it, it goes through a lot of the issues that you just discussed regarding shadows and things of that nature. So
If you have a link, you could actually put it in the chat and they can review it.
Can you also send to the board itself the letter that was sent to the residents?
Absolutely. We'll have that sent tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
And one last thing, I personally hope that you'll have a different response in terms of what to me comes off as a veiled threat, that if they don't accept the storage unit, then it's a worse outcome. I think we have to be a lot more creative and respectful of community than that. And we can think of different ways to do development in terms of in keeping with the zoning requirements of that specific area that don't rely us to demean people's intelligence about not thinking that there are other alternatives. That's it.
I apologize. That's not what was intended. What I was simply trying to point out is that this is an M11 district, and in fact, again, we'll have Alyssa Quill from Storage Asset Management with us when this comes back to the board. Among the potential uses at this site, a self-storage facility is the least impactful use that would be permitted as of right, probably less impactful than even a restaurant. So that wasn't meant in any way to demean or diminish the significance of the concerns or any of the individuals participating. It was just to point out that among the array of potential uses here, and that wasn't meant as a threat, it's just a reality that the M11 district allows for an array of uses, and this is one of the most benign that could be developed. Short of nothing ever happening to this site, and that's not an alternative, and that most respectfully wasn't meant as a threat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The next person that's up is GO 1726. You did have your hand up at one point. I see that your hand is down now, but you have been putting several comments in the chat. Would you like to have, or do you have a question for the team that's here?
No, I think with the comments that had been made, they've covered a bunch of the things that I had thought about asking. One of the things that that had been mentioned is when Long Island Railroad is coupling their cars, the homes here shake like it's a small earthquake. And to imagine that pylons would have to be driven into the ground in order for a foundation to be laid, that's even more direct than the Long Island Railroad or the truck traffic that comes through here. So I can't imagine how you could say, or how it could be said, that foundations wouldn't be affected by the construction of this facility. The other thing I also highlighted in my comments is that the city has, in the last year, we had at least 4 feet of water in that 56th Street Whitty Lane intersection. That's not the first time that that flooding has happened, but the city is aware of it and they have done nothing to remediate that situation. So the sewage system in this area is already heavily taxed. To build a facility that will add to that taxing will just make our situations that much worse. So I understand that there is a concern that in this area that a storage facility would be advantageous. But I also looked at the maps that had been shown about those storage facilities, and I didn't see any of them in the immediate proximity of residential areas. I saw them on Ralph Avenue. I see them on Foster, but I don't see the residential homes that abut these facilities. So I can't imagine why one would have to be thrust right behind the homes there on Whitty Lane, where, as Mr. Johnson brought out, there's so many other facilities or areas that can be taken advantage of with no impact to people's homes. So yes, I hear and I understand all of the discussion and the advantageous opportunities of putting a storage facility in the area, but I just don't see the logic behind impacting people's homes to the degree that we have either considered or have yet to consider, because we don't know what can happen down the line. And if the company is not going to put themselves out in a show of good faith to be willing to do those things ongoing, then we might be better off having a park, a recreation center, a laundromat, something that's less impacting than something like a storage facility. And thank you for your time and for listening to what I had to say.
Absolutely, Gio. Would you guys like to respond to any of Gio's comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, excellent. Next up, I have Bobby Mack.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Mack.
All right. I just have one quick question. Since you have a storage facility on Ralph Avenue, why do you need one over here? That would put two right close to each other. So why is that necessary?
Again, we're working with Storage Asset Management, and they're the ones who determine that they think that this is a reasonable site for that they could, have people using it, and they did their analysis, and they believe there's a market for it, and they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't feel that way. They have, as Howard mentioned before, over 500 sites, nationwide, and if they didn't think that there was a market for it in this area, they would not be considering a self-storage facility here.
Well, I'm not saying you don't have a market for it, but I'm saying it's the proximity. He's only 2 blocks away from the other one, so why have two that close to each other?
I mean, this happens to be the site that they own, so this is the site that they have to work with, and they feel that this is something that can, have an economic benefit for them, and this is where they think, this is the site that they own. They can't just choose any site that could be better for it. This is the site they have to work with, and they do feel that there's a market for it.
Right. Now, when I was looking at your map on Kings Highway, there's a house over there. Are you gonna knock that house down and displace the people that live there?
No, definitely not. We're not planning any.
Well, that's where the pedestrian way is right by where that house is.
So if you see again, our site plan is all the houses are beyond where our driveway. The houses. Are you referring to the houses immediately north here on Kings Highway?
There's one that's like right in the middle of 81 and some of the other places there. There's a house stuck right in the middle there.
It's west of the driveway.
west of the driveway.
We're not touching anything.
You ever physically been on that block? Because then you would know there's a house right there.
So yes, we actually were there this past week.
We're not touching any property that's not part of our site.
Yeah.
I don't see it on your map. That's why I'm asking you that question.
I think it is actually there.
Yeah, I mean,
could you put up the map again?
Yes. Sorry, Melissa.
Talk about the house that's on the entryway of Kings Highway. That's to the left of the gate. Is that what we're speaking about?
Yeah, it should be somewhere.
This house right here to the left. That's 26 by 6, 24 foot 6 inches, 2 lots.
So these. Right, so there are these 4 gray homes. Those are the homes on Kings Highway, and we're not going to be touching those homes. And then you have all of these gray homes. Those are the homes on Whitty Lane, which we're not touching either.
Nah, this is on Kings Highway. There's a house on Kings Highway. It would be like right in the middle of your proposal and that last gray building.
Okay.
And we're not touching any property other than our property.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Mack?
Hey, yeah, it does. But like I said, I still think that house is there and you're not showing it. But anyway, thank you anyway.
Cool. Mr. Dawes? Dale Dawes?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I had a question about the 12 cars a day. Is that a national average?
That's and we actually, before today's meeting, we had another conversation with Alyssa Quill from Asset Storage Management. That estimate of 12, on the average 12 cars a day, she estimated with respect to this site. Based on their experience.
So you're saying it's not an average. Go ahead.
Right, it's based on their experience nationwide with respect to a facility with the number of units that would be in this facility, as Ellie had.
So it's based on national numbers.
No, it's
what you're
based
saying
upon,
is based on national numbers.
It's not so much national numbers as based upon their operational experience around the country. But they operate facilities. They don't operate any other facilities here within New York City, but they operate in other municipalities, including other parts of New York and New Jersey. But it's not based upon the operation of a facility by storage asset management here in the city, although it is based upon industry standards.
Okay. So again, you said it's based on their experience countrywide, but you're telling me that it's not national. I'm glad that you stated, so it's still, again, based on national information. Yes. And then you also said it's industry standard.
Yes.
And do you have the New York City average on how, in terms of the cars that come per day, the daily for New York City? Even better, the daily for Brooklyn? Do you have that information?
We certainly can speak with Alyssa and in fact ask that very specific question and provide that very specific answer.
I would also like information at the beginning and the end of the month, the last 2 days of the month, the first 2 days of the month, when people are moving out or moving in. What are the averages on those days? Because as you stated, you don't have a current New York City location. Is that correct?
Yes.
The storage
did they previously own a New York City location?
No, they have not operated any facilities in New York City.
We would like to know, or let me speak for myself. I would like to know exactly where that 12 car number came from. As many people already spoke, that doesn't seem realistic, especially for this location, the amount of people in this location. in general. So specific answers to those questions will be extremely helpful. I understand that it's a projection, but we want to know what that projection is based on. Currently, it seems faulty. So if you're using industry standards, we'd like to know exactly what those industry standards are. Feel free to provide the national standards, but we also want specifically the New York standards and specifically the Brooklyn standards. And if you've done your due diligence, if you already know about the competitors in the area, if you have those numbers, feel free to share those as well.
Okay.
So I know that you're going to be providing us with some documentation. For example, that letter is going to be sent tomorrow. Now, how much time would you need to provide this information? When can we expect it?
We'll speak with
Go ahead.
Alyssa Quill. We'll speak with Alyssa Quill and let the board know.
Yeah, but I need a time frame. Can you provide a time frame?
I will speak with Alyssa tomorrow, and we'll then let the board know when she believes she can have those details.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dawes. Ms. Pendergast, you're back up. I didn't forget about you. Is she there?
Yes. Actually, I am here. I'd just like to comment and thank Ms. Bennett, because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up, was the underground stream that's behind the properties. I don't see how this facility can be dug so deep with a natural stream under the homes. DOB and EPA are very strict on their requirements. People do live in these areas. So thank you, Ms. Bennett. That was one of my things to bring up, and it's a very, very valid, serious issue. Regarding, and thank you, Ms. Allison Martinez, for bringing to mind to Howard and Eli that yes, this may very well be a benign business that you're trying to open, but it's not a matter of, if not this, then something worse. Then whatever the next thing will be, depending on what it is, then we'll have to deal with it at that time. You did clarify that was not your intent, Mr. Howard, regarding, like some similar of a threat, or, beware of what could come next. We know what devils we have. We don't know what we're getting, kind of situation. So those were my comments. I don't think this has been thought through very well. Digging underground, the sunlight from these homes for a 5-story building. There are other things that can be done. It's an M1 zoning district, agreed, but there are other things that are less benign than a storage facility that's going to attract more traffic, dig underground to disturb natural resources that we're already battling with and have been battling with for the last 40 years or so. Has gotten increasingly worse because the city has not paid mind to this area and taken care of their drainage systems like they should. So those are things that I would like Eli and Howard to consider before moving forward with this project. DOB's, we all know how DOB can be tough, and EPA is worse. So maybe you can think about doing a facility above ground. Why does it have to be underground? Why do you need a cellar? So as a, I'm sorry, you're not a builder, but trying to use this space. Maybe that's why this space hasn't been used before this time, because those things couldn't get passed. So we will be looking to see if it gets passed now, how and why. We've been, Ms. Dupree mentioned DHL, Mitsubishi. They all came in as proposed good neighbors. And less than 90 days of being a neighbor, they have destroyed this block or this neighborhood. So yes, everything is gold and silver and milk and honey to get it done and get in the door. And then once it's in the door, it turns to sour milk. So these are the things that we have experienced and we're bringing to the table to you, Howard and Eli, to let you know that our eyes are not closed. We understand we are business people. We're working people. And we've seen this done before. So please treat us with the intelligence that we deserve. And put forth, Mr. Mack mentioned a home right there that you guys don't have on your plans. Really, are you going to displace that homeowner to build your storage facility? Those are things to think about, and those are just comments I wanted to make. So thank you. It is kind of late to be bringing this to the table. We should have been told and had these conversations way before you had set your mind on this storage facility and what you're going to do with it. But there are other benign things that could be done to improve the neighborhood and have whoever your owner is flourish as a business owner, rather than be blocked once he gets in every time. Because trust me, we're all very familiar with 311, DOT, and DOB. And that's not a threat, it's just a fact. This is how we've had to live, these neighbors that are around us that claim to be good business neighbors. So thank you for your time, and I guess we'll wait to hear what happens next.
Any comments for Ms. Pendergast? Team?
No, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Pendergast. Ms. James, Chair James?
Yeah, based on some comments made earlier about, well, our client owns the property. When did your client acquire the property?
I don't have that information offhand, but I can definitely get back to you.
I can tell you without giving you the date certain, it's been the same owner through the entire period that dating back to when you had the school bus depot there.
No, because I find it very strange that it's the owner does not have a storage facility in Brooklyn or in this area, but they happen to own the property all this time, but they have storage units 500 in the rest of the United States. That just does not make sense.
The owner of the property. So let me explain. So the owner of the property is Clarendon Holdings. Storage Asset Management is a developer and operator of storage facilities. It is not the owner of the property, and so they're working with the owner to develop this property. But Storage Asset Management is not the owner of the property. The owner of the property is the same owner that's been there for all these years, dating back to when it was a school bus depot.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I may continue, please. I heard tonight, conversation about economic development, and I hear the word benign being used so often. I just need to point out there is nothing benign about a storage unit. Okay, Brooklyn existed for many, many years without that. And this emerged after displacements of residents. And what it causes is an economic loss. It's not measured, but it's a real economic loss where persons who are displaced but have an emotional tie to their belongings store it there and end up paying so much more than the value of what they're storing. So let's not call this benign. It is robbing. It is exploiting low-income persons who haven't been displaced or in confined space now need to find space for their stuff. It is not benign. I think it's insultive to try to convince us tonight that it's a benign industry. It's not.
Any comments?
No, thank you.
Absolutely. Ms. Dwyer, sorry, I know your hand's been raised for a while. Gary Dwyer.
Hi, good night, everyone. This is Sharon and Gary Dwyer. My husband just stepped out for a minute. So I was very disturbed when I got the notice on my door yesterday. And both my husband and I, we were looking forward for retirement. We are not young people anymore. We are in our 60s. So we are thinking about retirement, and to get this news it was very disturbing, and I'm very concerned. When, after working in this country for 36 years and looking forward for retirement, now I have to think about a storage in my backyard. And this is not, I am totally against it. Both my husband and I, we are totally against it. So whatever we can do, we would be fighting to have this whole thing, because I don't think that's the right thing to do. The people that came up with that brilliant idea of putting a storage in our backyard, would they like to have a storage in their backyard? I think that's very inconsiderate. And if you look at the people on this block, most of the people on this block are retired, or they are looking forward to their retirement. When people retire, they want to live in peace. They want to be happy. After working for so long, if God permits you to live for 4 or 5 or 10 more years, you want to be happy. Why we have to be having this conversation now? I think it's a big insult to us. They always choose to do this foolishness in Black neighborhoods because most of them live in Long Island and Westchester and where the big bucks run. So I am totally against it. I am 100% against it. And it's a slap in the face to come home after working hard and find this notice on my door. So I would like the people that authorize this, I don't know if it's approved because I came on late. I just came from work and my husband logged on and I miss a lot of the conversation, but I am totally against it. And I do hope that you guys reconsider how we feel after we worked for so many years and we're looking forward to our retirement to be dealing with a storage in our backyard. And I am in the middle of it. My number is 5546 Whitty Lane. So please reconsider if you guys that came up with the idea would like to have a storage in your backyard instead of looking forward to retirement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Do you guys have any comments for Ms. Dwyer?
No, thank you.
Excellent. Ms. Martinez, Hazel Martinez, you're up.
I'm really happy to see the number of people from Whitty Lane responding to those flyers because you would not have known if you didn't get those flyers. And my thing is, this is not a storage unit is not a benign thing. It is a tumor that metastasizes to the rest of the community. They will hold it there for a couple of years. And remember, if you look at the rest of East Flatbush, this is all that is left is the surrounding area below Kings Highway here. Because we're on the 54th Street on the other side, we have some $1.6 million homes now selling. So once they put up this storage unit, then traditionally, if you look down Kings Highway, you look down everywhere, you will see that then our homes, as people sell their homes, or your homes will be destroyed, and then they will get it for less, and then apartment buildings will begin to go up. That has been the pattern in the community for a couple of years now. We have been fighting against it. You're going to realize that you are alone in this. You're not going to get help from anybody, not your elected officials or anybody. You have to band together. You have to hire a construction lawyer, and you have to make sure that your developer, if they get to build that, which they shouldn't because it's an M1 and they're not supposed to, that permit was because people would prefer to have a manufacturing company where there are more employees than the 1 or 2 people they're going to have working if it was a storage unit. That's why they made that special permit. But you are going to, your elected officials are not, the Department of Buildings, the city planning, they don't care one bit about the residents in this community. We don't get any services. You hardly get your street cleaned. So you have to fight for yourselves. You have to gather together and really find your way. If you call a community board, Ms. Fraser will give you my information, because we would at least be able to give you some of what we've learned over the years of fighting in these things, because you are going to see your foundation. When they put that wind shelter on Glenwood, there are people whose homes to this day have this floor is separated from the wall. If they complain too much, DOB will shut their houses down, will remove them from their homes now, and they can't afford to do that. And that's what you have to look forward to here. Never mind the rodents that you're going to have with a storage unit, because people store food and rats run rampant in all of them. But you do not sit down and sit on this, because you have to wherever you have to contact, you all write letters, you protest, you do what you have to do, because you cannot sit down, because you're in it alone. You will not get any help from anyone. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I guess I'm going to close this out. I have Ms. Dupree and then Ms. Pendergast to close out this round. Ms. Dupree, you're up.
All right, thank you so much. I just have some questions. I'd like to know why are we now finding out about this? That's number one. And number two, how many properties of your clients in the area have physically seen the properties that you have, your storage areas, and how they're kept? And also the construction alone, the noise that's going to take place on Woody Lane. We have senior citizens here. We have people that are not well on this block. The noise, the digging, the constant banging all day long. How long is this project going to take? Thank you.
A few questions. Would you mind answering?
No, I'm happy to answer. It's coming to the board now because we're at a point where within several months it will come into the public review process. So in advance of it actually coming into formal public review, we thought it was best to bring it to the board earlier on. Similarly, for the same reason, we wrote to the Woody Lane homeowners, and over the next day or two, they'll all, as well as the Kings Highway homeowners adjacent to the property, and those letters should be received within the next couple of days, so we can deal with them one-on-one in advance of this coming into public review with the general public. As far as storage asset management's experience with the facilities it operates, I believe it enjoys a good reputation. They have a website that you can visit. Again, the name of the business is Storage Asset Management. And I'm not aware of any particular issues with respect to the company.
Well, how long is this project going to take with the digging and all of that?
We'll inquire with the project architects as to what they anticipate the period of construction would be, and we'll circle back to the board with that information.
Because it seems like we've been told the last minute, so it's like, it seemed like your decision is already made.
The decision on the part of the property owner to go forward with the project, yes, that's been made, and we have to go through a permitting process now. Yeah, the decision's been made to develop a self-storage facility, or to seek to develop a self-storage facility at this location. That's why we're here this evening.
Woody Lane, you have to stand your ground, Woody Lane neighbors. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Dupree. And closing out this dialogue is Ms. Pendergast. Your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to ask Howard and Eli, how many properties does Clarendon Holdings have in the Brooklyn area? And if they could provide us a list of addresses, would be great, because what I'd like to do is visit these properties and see how they're kept after the years of their initial building and construction. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my first question. I'd like to to also say, yes, should this get approved and it goes up, we as homeowners will be on our own. And anything that goes wrong on our property, as a result of this building, DOB is looking for us. They're not looking for Clarendon Holdings. Which has been the case with what's going on with the salvage yard behind the railroad. They cause the drama, they cause the disruption, the weakening of the homes, and we're responsible to repair and deal with Department of Buildings and EPA. So thank you again for bringing that to the forefront, and everybody really does need to be aware of that. So can Howard or Eli get to us a list of the properties that Clarendon Holdings own? And we'd like to visit some of these properties and see how they're kept after their construction and whatever they're being used for.
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay. And Mr. Trey, can you, I would ask you as the community board head to please keep the families or the homeowners on Woody Lane abreast of what's going on with this project in writing by mail. Because the flyer that was placed today, if my neighbor had sent me a screenshot of it, I would not have known, because it was windy and the weather has been really bad when the initial flyer came out. So they were all over, for one. And for two is a better view of how to get into these meetings, because as I mentioned to you when I first got on, the passwords are really cumbersome and hard to read based on the copy I got. I had to play with some of these password numbers.
Okay, yeah, we'll be in contact with Ms. Frazier. I don't really see that not being an issue. I mean, there's only a few homes there. We could probably definitely mail out something. Sometimes these meetings don't get confirmed with a lot of time predating, but as soon as we know, I could speak to Ms. Frazier. Is that something that you think we could do? When it's time to speak on this topic again, could we do some mailers directly?
Mr. Afray?
Yeah.
I've been doing this for almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad to say that unless a certain area is affected, that's the only time we see an outpouring of emotions and voices on what really impacts the community as a whole. What I would like to see, and I encourage residents, don't only attend meetings when you're affected. And I'm not asking residents to attend meetings every month there is a meeting, but at least try to stay abreast of what's going on in the community as a whole. There's so many areas in our community that are being affected right now as we speak. This Saturday, we have a walkthrough. A rezoning committee was formed. We need community residents to come on board to take our community back. We are losing generational wealth in our communities. So I am going to encourage, I know Ms. Mack called me. She told me she's the president. I forward the information and asked that it was circulated to the residents. I have no idea who created the flyer. We did not create a flyer. We sent out the link with all the information. I will send whomever is interested in registering with us. I can send you an application form. I will add your name to the committee, and every month, once we have a meeting schedule, you will be notified and the link will come directly to you. So send me or call the office. You have the number. I was bombarded with calls regarding tonight's meeting. Just call the office or shoot me an email.
So thank you so much for your information, but I see your name is Community Board 17. What is your name, ma'am?
My name is Cherie Fraser.
And how do we contact you, Ms. Fraser?
You could call 718-434-3072. Ms. Mack has my information. I could send the
Can you please repeat the phone number?
718.
Yes.
718-434.
Yes.
3072. And I will give you I will prefer the email. I am the only person in the office. I am bombarded with calls. I cannot take all the telephone calls.
Ms. Fraser,
Email. I will put my email. I will put my.
I just have one more comment, Ms. Fraser.
Yes, ma'am.
In regard to your not being, I don't know what's going on with anybody else's community. I know my block and these people that are here. We are constantly on the phone with 911. We constantly have abandoned cars, garbage, dump, all these things that go on.
I understand.
So
I have been dealing with.
Ms. Fraser, can I finish?
Oh,
Can I
sure.
finish?
Yes, Ms. Pendergrass. Sure, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. I cannot believe that to this date, that we have, most of us on this call have been in this neighborhood for 40 years or better. I cannot believe that at this late date, you're not aware of the trials and tribulations in that neighborhood. And I'm not just talking about Whitty Lane. I'm talking about the entire 11203. If you look at Farragut Road and that car wash that burned down, have you been in that neighborhood? Because we've called about that as well. I've sent letters. That is a dumping ground. They have a bunch of mechanic shops over there, and they run the street as if it is theirs. They're rent free. They're parking their abandoned cars, their fixer cars. It's disgusting. So at this late date, we do participate. I'm sorry that you don't know, but look, I had to ask you your name.
Well, I do know Ms. Pendergrass because I have been in communications with a number of your residents on Whitty Lane, and they could speak on my behalf.
Yes.
I have contributed a lot and assisted in resolving a number of issues in that area. I'm extremely familiar with the issues over there. I see Ms. Dupree shaking her
Yes,
head.
Ms. Fraser. Ms. Fraser has
So
helped us.
I am aware of the facility there at the corner of Farragut and Utica. A matter of fact, we've had several cleanups, including cleanups with Councilmember Farah Lewis at that location. We've had the buildings department. We've been looking, searching the records to find out who owned that building, what can be done. It's an eyesore in our community.
So it's not just a building. I think you have to get after the business owners in that area. The business owners.
Ms. Pendergrass, I'm aware of every issue in this community. I am only asking that we stay alert. It's not just Whitty Lane, it's Farragut Road, it's Clarendon Road, it's Church Avenue. Ms. Martinez would tell you, I am all over this community. It's right there by McDonald's, on Clarendon Road, by Footprints. The issues are all over. But pertaining to this, I really would like to see Whitty Lane participate more, residents participate more in some of the issues, the overall issues in the community. Get on board with the rezoning committee. We formed this committee a few months ago. We're moving forward. We actually have a walk-in tour on Saturday where we'll be mapping out certain areas that we are fighting to rezone. And Ms. James would probably give you guys an update. She's the chair of this committee. But I am here. I'm in the office. I'm alone. Send me an email. I respond to all my emails. It may not be immediately, but you will get a response. Okay? So I will drop my email, or if you have a pen or a paper, I'll give it to you. It's bk17@cb.nyc.gov. Send me an email. I will send the forms out. Once you're added to the committee, automatically you will receive the notification. So there's no need to keep calling every month to find out, when do we have a meeting? You'll have all the committees listed on that form, and you check.
Send that email again. Oh, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
So to your point regarding the email, and thank you so much for that and your clarification. However, we do have a lot of older members in the community that are not, and in our area as well, that are not email savvy or computer literate. So those written letters are very important.
Well, we were told that, and we're working towards that. However, once the email is shared with someone, for instance, a number of residents joined by telephone tonight, and I understand that. So once you receive the link, the telephone number is there. You could share it with your neighbors. You guys have a great association over there, and I'm hopeful that we could work together to resolve most of the issues that are affecting not only Whitty Lane, but the community as a whole. So thank you. I will not take up more time in your
Thank you.
meeting.
Can I say something real quick?
Excuse me?
This is Bobby Mack. Can I say something real quick to Ms. Frazier?
Absolutely.
The email you sent me, I'm the one that copied it and distributed it to the neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. That's how that got out.
And just to speak on that topic, you know, the community board has several committees that address many of the issues that you've been speaking of. If you have issues with a business and how they operate, we have a commerce committee that issues licenses to various businesses in the area. Your input is important. And sometimes it takes tragedy for, you know, these type of things to happen. Although we're a land use committee, we do have a general board meeting every third Wednesday of the month that you could come in person and speak your grievances at. Sometimes we can't be everywhere at once, so your voices are important, but your involvement is important too. Us having this forum here is to address your issues and to make sure that your voices get heard by the people that are coming into your neighborhood and trying to develop it. I'm trying to close out this section, but I see Ms. Martinez has her hands up. Allie, could you be real quick? And then I just give them the opportunity to close out so we can move on. Go ahead.
Yes. I just want to say one thing, that Clarendon Holdings has 53 properties. You can see from some of the photos, because it's mostly like automotive parking, miscellaneous buildings. You'll see there's a couple photos there where there's some dumping outside of their locations. So just even in the Property Shark photos, I think they would need to show us more, in terms of how their standards for managing spaces as well, for that to be something to look at. I also want to know if there is a block association attached to Whitty Lane, who are the presidents, and if I can contact them, because I actually want to do a project with the trestle that's right there to clean up that space. And I think it would be impactful to work with the block association to try to work on that. So that's what I'm hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to just give Ellie the opportunity to close out. Any closing statements, any provisions, so we could release you guys. Thank you for your presence. Do you have anything in closing?
Nothing further. Thank you everyone for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right. We look forward to getting the information that was discussed tonight. Informs any Whitty Lane residents. Just make sure you contact Ms. Frazier or join the committee. We do send out the information, although it may not affect your block in particular. It does affect the community at large, and other people may actually want to join your fight with you. As you see, we have many committee members that may not live on your block, but they spoke on your behalf today. With several voices, we could actually make something happen. And thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move on with our meeting. We're going to move on with the meeting.
We thank you very much for your time and look forward to working with the board and the community going forward. Everyone stay safe and be well.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Night.
All right. Now that we have quorum, we do need to approve the meeting minutes for November 3rd. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 3rd?
Mary Bell Downs, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 2022.
3rd. The 3rd of November.
23rd.
The 3rd. 3.
Third.
The 3rd of November.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Is there any amendments, discussions, revisions that need to be made to the minutes?
No, not right now.
Hearing none. All right. So all in favor to approve the minutes for November 3rd?
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand. Oh, yeah. I guess raise your hand will be easier. Everybody's hand is raised, so I got to do a voice vote. Oh, okay. I'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 I put my hand up.
All opposed?
Nope.
Any abstentions?
Nope.
All right, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. You can lower your hands for voting. We're moving on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business at hand? Ms. Martinez? Hazel? Sorry.
I really think that we have got to find a way to, when these issues come up, such as this, that the residents of those particular areas are notified, because it used to be done in the past, and it's not, we could have had this meeting here tonight with no one here to speak on their own behalf.
That's us.
I agree. You know, with the technology, sometimes, you know, it's a fine tool, because it's you know, the youth have more access to it, but the older residents typically don't. We have to find like a we have to find a median that works both ways. You know, it's tough.
No, it's not.
So you saying door to door?
I went door to door and gave out these flyers.
Okay.
Because I felt the residents of this community, because I don't live far, I live down the street, but I think that people need to know what is happening. But a lot of times decisions are made for us. We don't have any input anyhow at all. No one, I mean, people don't really care that much about our input, but at least you have an option. Everybody doesn't use email or texting.
That we did bring this up at new business last month, and we did know that this presentation was coming this month, so we could have done the work or had a discussion last month to make sure that this would actually get to the nearby residents. So we did have the opportunity.
But
so
we didn't
have to
do
a little bit better. We have to do better. Yeah. You know,
And they have to
the
do
fact
better
doesn't help us, but we did discuss it, and we did have the opportunity to do this. And I will bring it up with new business in the future as an option to make sure that we get the messages out. Both. And hold me to that. And I want everybody to hold each other to that, you know, and I want to utilize these just not as passing points, but it is new business, and it's unfinished business this week, and it'll be unfinished business moving forward.
Mr. Craig?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, I just wanted to remind you to inform the residents that next month, Mr. Solomon, I think his name is.
No, it's Mr. Dayton or Hate. I don't want to mispronounce his name. Yes.
Darrell. I know his first name is Darrell.
Mr. Darrell Hayton, I believe is his name. Ms. Frazier, thank you.
We'll be presenting on this same issue. So if you could inform the residents now.
Oh, I will.
So they're aware of next month's meeting.
Yes.
This
So
is not the end of it.
Yeah, this was just the beginning, but we didn't want to put too much, as we would have probably gone into the later hours of the night. We do have a Mr. Darrell, I believe his name is Hinton, doing a presentation.
It's Holland. Yeah.
Holland? Oh, you're here, Mr. Holland?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been here for the whole
sorry.
meeting.
Yeah, I didn't see your name. That's why I was kind of looking for
Yeah,
it.
I've been here for the whole meeting. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to do a presentation in opposition of the.
Yes, he's doing a presentation next month in opposition of this. He's going to hopefully have all of the data points that correlate with all of your concerns and make sure that it gets addressed. So we'll have the necessary data, or we'll have a way to distribute the necessary data, should you not have it physically, the macro and the micro data that you will need to address these issues on a different plane. Hopefully, Mr. Holland will provide to us next month. So I agree that you guys should be here again next month to hear Mr. Holland's presentation. I'm going to give him a little bit of time just to speak on it, just so that it's his voice and not mine, to make sure that he gets all of the talking points through. Mr. Holland?
Sure. I just want to say that I really appreciate taking the time next month, and I'm going to come at it from many of the points that you made this evening, but I'm going to come at it from a different aspect, as what it means to the community as a whole, as providing a socio-economic package. When you put a storage facility up, it's just a box, nothing happens, it sits there. It is zoned for manufacturing, and there is some some bad parts about putting up a manufacturer, but it provides jobs. The average manufacturing job is $60,000 a year. In a manufacturing job, there's a career path. You become a manufacturer, you start off as
as a manufacturer doing one thing, and I have a list of career paths, how you can create a career path and become a upper middle income person. Another thing that's a policy of the mayor and the governor. When you are building a facility, you have to hire from the community. 20% of the people that are hired to put it up have to be from the community. And there's a lot more. That's just a taste. And so, I just want to give you a taste of that and look at it from a different aspect of what the benefits would be of a manufacturer over self-storage for the community as a whole from a socioeconomic standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. So I encourage you guys to attend to hear the other side, the side that closely correlates to your views that you expressed tonight. Ms. James, Chair James.
Well, yeah, thank you. Just to piggyback on that, manufacturing does not always have to involve a smokestack. You can have a manufacturing business that does not provide pollution. So I think it's misleading for the presenters tonight to suggest that, well, the alternative is going to be all that bad. Since this is unfinished, well, before I move on, I understood Ms. Hazel Martinez distributed the flyers in the neighborhood. If I heard correctly, I think we really need to commend her for taking that initiative. So thank you very much. And thirdly, since this is unfinished business, let us not forget East 98th Street, which is still looming in the background. Let's keep that, on the radar.
Always on it. Contact them weekly. They just don't want to come in front of us at the moment. I'm not sure why.
And two, we need to be cognizant of the timeline, the time frame for this particular issue tonight, because we don't want to get caught off guard and find that they've gone to city planning or whatever without the input of without opposition. So we need to know exactly what the time frame is before they get to city planning, whether they need to get a response first, whatever it is. We just need to monitor it.
They're going for the same special variance because they can't build what was proposed to us without it. So they have to speak to us. It's just a matter of when they're ready to.
Yeah, but the issue is they're speaking to us, but do they have to wait? Do they need to wait for our response, or can they move ahead having presented to us? So we need to make sure that we don't miss the opportunity to express our opposition to city planning on this issue. That's all I'm saying.
The package usually comes to the office first.
Mm-hmm.
Once they submit their paperwork to city planning notifies the board, and that's when it comes back to the land use committee. Land use committee makes a recommendation to the full board, and the full board votes on behalf of the community.
And that vote matters. That vote really matters.
Yeah, that's the process.
Because when it gets to the mayor's,
cannot do anything.
Yeah, when it gets to the mayor's desk, he's going to want to know what the community board does. I'm sure Farrah Lewis is a city council person. I'm sure she's going to be with us on this issue, and hopefully we can all vote not to support it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Holland. Ms. Bennett, your hand is raised. Unfinished business.
No, it was not. Let me see. Oh, let me take it down.
All right, thank you. Ms. Pendergast, unfinished business.
Yes, I'd just like to thank Ms. Allison Martinez for bringing to light so quickly how many properties they have, and the fact that they, it's not kept, the garbage and so forth. So now I think they're on notice that we're not just idly allowing them to just do what they want to do. And we're aware that when they break ground and they build their building, that they walk away and that's it. Whatever happens, happens. Let the business run. So thank you, Ms. Martinez, for bringing that to their attention right away.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pendergast.
Ms. Hazel Martinez, your hand is raised.
I just want to remind people, don't count too much on the mayor. When he was borough president, he never even came over here.
Yeah. That's true. And he also said he likes development. He's development minded.
100%. Okay.
300%.
He is. And so is our borough president. They're both.
There was something else. I wanted to ask you something.
He never came over here either.
No, but Chair, I want to ask her a question, Ms. Bennett.
Absolutely.
Now, I heard you say that they recently sent letters out to the homeowners. They put them on the door, like what, 2 days ago, a day ago?
Well, we didn't do that. A
That's
resident did that. We didn't do that.
okay. I know Allison Hazelton did it, but he said he sent letters to all the homeowners. I said, wait a minute, within 24-hour period? She
Yeah, I'm
did
not.
it?
Those letters went in the mail today. The flyers,
I heard him say that.
put up.
He said you're going to be getting it right after the fact. That's insulting.
Oh, you saying that they put the notices on their door, the letters to the homeowners?
No. He said they sent letters out.
Yeah, I think he said he did send letters to the homeowners, but it seems like they had it or they didn't have it. I'm not sure.
No, the letters from them came in the mail today.
Oh,
They
okay.
sent them today, the letters in the mail. The flyers on the doors is a completely different thing. That was to make sure that homeowners.
About the
know
letters.
it's all.
Okay.
You're at a meeting now, but you sent the letters out the same day. That's
Because he
crazy.
knew he was coming to a meeting today.
He didn't want them here.
Yeah. I'm sure.
That's sneaky and devious and insulting. But we need to have some type of requirement that if you're going to do that, you send those things out a week ahead of the meeting.
Well, we're aware of it, and we notify anybody who has communication with the community board. You know, like it's not impossible, but we'll do better as a committee. It's very something we've done flyers before in the past. I'm pretty sure that as much as we're active and we're around the area, we knew last month we could do better. We'll do better and get the local community. It won't be too much.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we'll do better. I'm sorry, Miss James. I didn't read what you said. I got a lot of comments. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, they probably just post stamped it to make sure that they say that appropriate notice. I'm not really sure what the letters contained. But I know that the flyers is why they were here tonight.
Or maybe one of the homeowners will share that letter with us.
Yeah, maybe. If they're comfortable, maybe you could possibly share the letter.
I asked them to send it to the community board so you would have a record of what was sent to residents.
Yeah. Let's make sure we follow up. I'm gonna make sure I have to follow up with that with Ms. Frazier. We should be anticipating a binder of information from the group that was here tonight, which you have the associate and the partnership, and the name of the actual business was. No, that was the owners, but it was like self-storage. I had it somewhere. Sorry. A lot of information. Yeah, it was like a self-storage.
You see it around, man? You're not selling it, you see it?
All right.
Oh, wow.
Miss Martinez, is your hand still up?
That's just money making.
Sorry.
Okay. Ms. Pendergast, you have any other comments?
Actually, I'm just going to send a note to Ms. Frazier regarding the email. I just sent one out to her and I got a notice failure, so I just need her to type it to me so I can sign up for this.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfinished business. Do we still have any other unfinished business?
So we haven't heard anything about 98th Street at all. Is
Zero.
that the case?
That's the case. They're not responsive.
Can you reach out to basically the elected officials to see where they may be in the process or DCP? Because though they may be just waiting for us for last and lining up all those other ducks in a row.
Sure.
So we need to see where they are in the process.
I'm gonna have to contact you about something because that's Miss Mealy's office, and we haven't had much success contacting from my office.
Then I would probably go straight to the city agencies then and work that way.
All right. Yeah, I'll go to, just not to cause confusion, I'll get with Miss James and we'll contact Lucia at DCP, see if there's any activity over there.
And DOB. I know they've had some shifting, but if they're filing for permits or anything like that, they
Well,
will
that's public
be
record,
starting those
so-
conversations, even if
That's
they
public
haven't
record. We can
filed
look that
anything.
We can look that up without contacting anybody from DOB.
No, it's still better to develop the contacts because you want to be able to call
okay.
people immediately for things when you need it.
Sure. We have the contacts at DOB because, we still have that after hours variance on
Yeah,
hold.
but I think there's been some shifting in there. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so not everybody
Our
is the
our
same
point of
position.
contact may have changed. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
All right. I'll get with Miss Frazier. She's usually apprised with that type of stuff. But yeah, we're refreshing our lists. We need to. DOB, DCP. Okay. Any other unfinished business? Okay. Moving on to new
Can I,
business.
sorry, one last for unfinished.
All right.
Talking about the Shirley Chisholm Center, it's this exact situation that we really need to work to avoid, which is, where, the community engagement, it comes after the work, which is a waste of money and time. So that's why we really need to try to impress upon them that we need to change how this is done and making sure that we bring community along from the beginning and hash out any issues that may be with that project.
Absolutely. We'll speak. We know, and I'll reiterate for anyone who came into the meeting late, that the DDC did not do a presentation tonight. They will be presenting at our general board meeting on December 21st in regards to this project. So I got to speak to the chair and concerns of just having the community input. I believe we wouldn't reject any community questions or stuff like that, but I got to make sure that that's facilitated properly so that everyone has their voices heard. Yeah, so definitely put it on your calendar. If you wasn't planning, I know it's Christmas week, but if you have interest or equity in what that project is, they will be doing an initial presentation. The procurement happened and they're still not distributing any drawings, I believe, until July or June of next year. So this is the time, even though we should have been asked before, but this is the time to ask the questions and go back into your memory banks and remember what was asked and remember what was agreed upon and see if it actually gets executed. And for all those that might get sidelined by the drawings and may not understand it, just feel free to contact us privately in the chat, any one of us, and we could guide you to the right people to let you know that what you're seeing and what it means. Sometimes it could just be a lot. It's just a lot of numbers, a lot of lines, and sometimes people just aren't familiar with it. Miss Martinez, your hand is raised.
Yes, I want, in terms of the Shirley Chisholm Center, are you going to have the presentation in advance? I mean, we have any idea if any of the things, because I've heard lots of rumors out there about it's a proposed change in location. I know they've been measuring the area because I've heard that too. And I want to know, is this facility going to have what the community requested?
We will know that information this month, on the 21st. This is what they're trying to do at this presentation.
They're not going to give it to you in advance so that we can know what we're asking about?
I could ask to see if they'd be willing to give us a one-pager or something like that in advance, but from my knowledge, I don't believe that that's the case.
I said both me and my husband.
Because in the past, you've been able to get things in advance so that
Oh yeah, I know.
can make some intelligent suggestions, conversation, or inquiry.
Absolutely, yeah.
What
you
it
want to
is
live
that
with
we
the
want.
information so that you could make an informative ask of your questions. Let me see what they're comfortable doing because I know that there's like NDAs and all that kind of stuff going on. So let me contact Ms. Frazier. She's in contact with them, and let me see if we could get something initial out so that we could review visually or verbally of what is being proposed at the location.
Because the Parks Department is not trustworthy.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with the Department of Design and Construction. We can hope that
they're not either.
I know that they're not, but if they're building something, they should be able to answer those questions at a minimum. So
I actually reached out for a copy of the feasibility study.
Right.
That was conducted throughout this community years ago.
Did you ever get one?
Under the Bloomberg administration. So I made one ask. I did not receive a response, and I followed up. I'm still waiting. And I did this after our last meeting.
Yeah.
Once, and if I receive a copy of that, I will definitely share it with the
Even that, even that is
That should
different
be that.
because when they went to the Tilden playground, it could not have a pool and it could not have some of the amenities that it could have in this larger space at Nostrand. But we want to know if, because the feasibility study, people said, I was there, we did all kinds of things that we wanted, but said people wanted, but it was not coming, it was not going to be actually be included in that facility. Now in this facility, there was something, I want to know if those things are still going to be there.
Yeah, I sent an email to the Commissioner of Parks.
Oh, please.
Asking him to share with us the
Yeah.
study. So I am waiting on a response from him.
Oh, okay.
On top of the study, I think it's a fair ask to ask for an initial one pager with at least some type of visual concept and some type of verbiage of what actually is going to be presented. I think that's fair.
Well, a one pager isn't good enough because really we should be actually looking at plans so that we can ask about these plans intelligently.
Yeah, but they're not going to share the plans with us.
You can't, again, and I stated this in the last meeting. There is an NDA agreement with the architect and so forth. I spoke and said that the information that they gave the DDC was just a generalization. It's a design build concept. So it doesn't mean that it's not there, but it doesn't mean that it's there. What's going on is that design build means as the project is going on, the project might be in like a 30% phase in the initial to start doing maybe the foundation and so forth. And as they're going on, the project can take on a different
that's not acceptable.
Yes, but again, you have no control over that now because 90% of the projects that public works projects that are coming out now are design build. That is the new form of construction.
No, that's the form of cheating our community.
Yes, yeah, all right, okay.
You could still tell me there's a pool. You could still tell me that there's this whatever rooms there are. You could still do that, but your NDA should not exclude that.
They can if they choose to.
Well, then we shouldn't hire them.
Wait. Okay, all right, no problem. But it's all in how you request it. If you come off the way you're coming off, like you're fighting them, you're going to get a certain response. This is why
you have hired them. You have a different way of handling things because that's why we have all these buildings all over the place.
No. Let me explain why you have all these buildings all over the place. And let's be very honest. And I discussed that several times already in this land use. Years ago, when this land use committee was together, there was an issue still. And what these folks did, they waited for folks to die, for folks to leave, for folks not to pay the water rate, the mortgage, different thing like that. And they get to slip in. And when they slip in now, all in a sudden now, we surprised. They were planning this for years. So what you have to do and what we have to do is be strategic. That building is coming there. What we can control is getting our folks in the door to put our community at hand in terms of getting part of that contract to work. The maintenance of that facility.
That is only one part. Work is one thing, but the fact is, what is work if we're not getting what we want?
Hold on a second.
Again, it's too. What I will tell you, you have to try to deal what you could deal with and handle now. We are at this stage now. They moved it. They didn't tell anybody. It's coming there.
Yes, they did.
Okay,
They
so
did.
fair
You
enough.
were not around when that move was made and the process was done. It wasn't just moved and nobody was told. There was a whole evaluation and assessment and the consulting of the residents around there and in Flatbush Gardens. It didn't happen overnight. And it's not about just getting a job, waving a flag and passing traffic. This is about, is the facility going to be what the community wants and needs? And when you go so they hire a white agency, a white construction company, and then they subcontract and pacify Black people with another agency that could have handled it without the white agency.
So here's what's happening. Again, like you're saying, you don't understand the construction environment. Number one, this is a three-part strategic thing. I explained this last meeting, I'm going to say it again. Studio Gang is owned by a white female architect, yes. They have McKissick and McKissick as the one that dealing with the MBE and the community distinct. And then Lendlease Bovis now brought those two people together. So you get a white woman and a Black woman. Okay? So understand that they strategically understand what to do. All I am stating is that we as a group now, we will have to maximize where we could maximize. We might be able to, and what happens? If you're a stakeholder, you might be able to come out and dictate that. If I am on a job and I have a certain amount of prowess, whether it's 30% of that 130 million contract, can I say I have a way of reaching to the architect and the other one? Yes, because why? I have a vested interest as a stakeholder, right? This is where I want us to get to. It's great as a community to stand up and fight, but you have to have skin in the game in terms of having access to what capital or what money is coming from that project in order to channel and change the direction of the project. That's all I'm saying.
All right. On the topic, the design build bid. I did put out a little bit of a video. It's a freelance topic and a freelance method of how to build construction. It's very nuanced, and actually in our favor. It not being permanent and it not having the facilities or may not having the facilities initially does give the builder the ability to add those facilities if it's permissible. So it not being design build off the rip says that we have the ability to change or morph this into what we need it to be. But without knowing exactly what's
How
being
do I
presented to
reduce
us,
the size of a
hold on.
voice recording?
Oh, sorry. Without knowing exactly what's being presented to us, it's difficult to leap ahead and say that they're not providing all of the asks that are coming. We did have that letter for transparency and inclusivity drafted, but we have to see. This is still the early stage. I don't want anybody to think that they've missed the boat on this, but they have the permission to move forward and survey the property and see what needs to be built, but they haven't locked down what actually is going there. This is our opportunity next month to have that conversation. We can't be mad that they're willing and they're coming early enough, being that procurement was only 2 months ago, to have that conversation now, right? I just want everybody to be focused and pay attention to the process. And understanding the process is important because this thing gets built between the builder, the architects, and the designers in-house. And if we could say and we could articulate exactly what we want in a manner that's understandable and cohesive for everyone, we will get what we want out of it. We will get what we want out of it. We need to understand that that's the process and understand that, unfortunately, if it was the other way, if they decided to build it without anything, it would be their say and we would have no input whatsoever. All right. I'm just trying to just get everybody to understand what that concept is. When they're inviting you to the table, they're including you in a way that you may not like. It may not be as early as you liked, but it's still early enough because they just handed the job over 2 months ago, you know, and they're coming before us within 90 days of that procurement, which I think is early, which I believe is early. Could it have been early? Of course, but if they don't have anything to conceptually bring to us, then it would be for naught. Miss Martinez, Allison, sorry,
I think the point in here is trying to maximize the leverage that we have.
Oh, sure.
And that is about, we know it's a design build. None of us are unaware of what that means. It's about, let us see in advance of this meeting what you have so that we can prepare. The reality is there was community already spoke about the ways and uses that they were looking for in a community center. And we need to hold their feet to the fire as early and often as possible to make sure that we're getting what we're asking for. And the fact is, it's not just about McKissick and construction. That's one phase. We have to look at it as a holistic process. What's it going to be during construction? After construction, when Parks takes over, what about the jobs and the programming and the management? All of those things are things we have to look at across levels. And the fact is, we have a history. We know how Parks has operated in the past on these types of projects, and we need to force them to do things differently. And that means being at the table, meaning asking for different things. And it's not about, yelling or whatever. We already knew like some of the deficits. That's why people fought to get it out of Tilden Playground. So we want to avoid having those same issues come up again by making sure we're at the decision-making table early, often, and have that continuous feedback loop with community, period.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is that this meeting this month is giving us the opportunity to do that. And I don't want us to.
No, but part of that prepping for that is as soon as they can get their presentation deck together, they're not going to finish it the day of, or they may. But we need to see an advanced drafts just so that, because most of the people who would be voting on this are not on this land use committee. So they need as much opportunity to see what those renderings may look like, to formulate questions and be, conversant on the material as possible. So if they can set an event, which they have done for presentations before, if that is possible, let us see the decks. That's it. I don't think it has to be this whole drawn out discussion. That's all it was about, is like, let people have information earlier so they can prepare themselves.
Oh yeah, we'll reach out, and I will reach out because I think that that's a fair ask to have something, but to have something that's design build, have a full concept in front of you in 90 days. I don't think that that's realistic. That's what I'm saying. Whatever they have currently.
What I'm asking. It's whatever it is they have at this point. We'll see it.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's they're bringing to us what they have currently, which has to be conceptualized in some way. Can we get an advance of that? I'm totally for that. That's a fair ask. But what I don't want is us to feel like it's too late. I think that is still early enough. But with the meeting, I want us to be prepared. I want us to know what I want us to be able to digest what's put in front of us, ask the appropriate questions, right? Then leverage our elected officials with the letter that we drafted to make sure that whomever, because we at this moment, I don't know who's the contact point of person when they're trying to decide what would be accepted or not accepted from a community standpoint. That hasn't been developed. Those are the questions that I want asked. If I can't ask them myself, I want us to ask them, or the committee members to ask those type of divulge questions. I don't want it to get caught up about everything is important, but I want those questions as far as what they're being brought there for. Like, they're being brought there for design and construction. And, I don't want it to get caught up in a sanitation issue or a parks issue or this issue. All of those issues are important, but this is the design and construction department of the Department of Buildings. And we need to ask the appropriate questions so we can get what we want out of it. That's the only thing that I'm trying to guide us in that direction. Everything is important and nothing needs to be left out, but this particular department deals with a particular issue. And we know that sometimes we hear about complaints at the land use committee that doesn't really pertain to our committee itself, and it doesn't really get addressed. I want us to fully understand who's coming in front of us so that we could actually, make good of the time that we have them. And then once we get these point of contacts, we will invite them as many times as necessary to our committee meetings, if the board allows, to aggressively address the issue as it progresses. You know,
I'm
I
just
hope that
saying,
was clear. Yeah.
asking about a pool, if the pool is still feasible in this space, asking about, the workforce center space and a technology lab, if that was still going to be able to happen, that is within the realm of design build. So those are exactly the questions that are on point with the topic at hand.
And I feel like we have the opportunity to ask those questions. I don't want to say that that opportunity is lost. The reason that we're bringing it, the reason why Ms. Frazier tried to get the joint meeting together and ultimately it went to the general board is not ultimately the way that I wanted it to happen, but it's happening and we have to adjust accordingly. Unfortunately, it grew bigger than our committee as far as what it impacts. So if we're the ones that are informed, we have to be the ones at the forefront asking the appropriate questions because it's going to be you with the whole board and community at large asking questions, and we want to make sure that the proper questions pierce through. That's the only message that I'm trying to get, across. That they are going to be the generalized questions, but we want to make sure we ask the necessary questions also. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Your hand is raised.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I don't even know where we were. Were we still in unfinished business? I think we were, and then it didn't end because we slipped back. Any unfinished business?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Ms. Bennett?
Yes, I had a question in regard to the property on Rogers and Church Avenue. Can you find out any information on it? Because so far, I don't know if we're broken ground.
I'm sorry, you're muffled. You're talking about where the roti shop used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I drove by it. I didn't really see no permits or flyers up over there. I just saw the green book. I didn't get any notices or anything from YIMBY saying anything that was happening there. Did get some stuff from some other stuff nearby, but nothing for there.
Veronica, I see them putting up a building in Veronica place also.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive by there again, but I didn't see anything and I didn't get any notices.
Well, I was over there yesterday, and they were out there really working. No, Tuesday, and they were out there really working. The construction guys.
Yeah,
They said it's going to be 7 stories.
as early as Tuesday, you said?
Yep, I was there Tuesday, and they're over there working.
All right, we'll take a look. I have to go there and take a look and see what's going on.
All right,
All right. If you do pass by and you see some pictures of any permits or anything like that, let me know because I want to see if you contact.
Yes, I did take some permits. Well, something about docket numbers. It's a building on Church and I believe it's Bedford. No,
Yeah.
Bedford. Right there.
Yeah, I passed by there. I didn't. The last time I passed by there was probably when we went to the Erasmus Street, and I didn't see anything.
Because that wasn't, there was nothing there. They were working at stop work looked like, and now I see a list of docket numbers. It doesn't give any other information. Just the numbers. It says docket numbers. A whole row of them.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not quite understanding you. You sound a little muffled.
But all I saw were a list of docket numbers.
Okay.
And some permits expired, some permits new.
Okay. All right. So we'll follow up. You got my number, right?
Yeah, no. Brooklyn Avenue and it says Brooklyn and Church. That property.
Oh, Brooklyn and Church. That's the one on the corner where the home used to be. Multiple lots. It's like 4 stories high.
The house used to be.
Yeah, I drove by there the other day too. It seemed like it wasn't moving forward.
It's moving forward. It's moving forward.
Yeah, I saw the blocks, and then the last few times I drove by, I didn't see any activity.
They're doing the windows and stuff.
Okay. All right.
Lots of activity.
Yeah, it seemed it slowed for a while because I was driving past it when I was going to the community board meetings, and it didn't.
It's been dead for a long time, but it's active now.
Okay. It's been dormant. We will look. Oh, I've been looking, but I will look harder. Usually I pull over when I see something change.
Yeah, I took pictures and they wanted to know what I was doing. I said, nothing, just taking pictures. That's what they're there for. They put the permits out there for people to read and see.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Any other unfinished business? Seeing none. Any new business? Yes, I knew Ms. James. Go ahead, Ms.
I just, yeah, thank you. I just want to, it was mentioned earlier to invite everyone to come out on Saturday as we do a walkthrough to look at our community and to see how we need to rezone our community. So I mean, encouraging, it's 11 o'clock. We're going to start up from the board's office at 4112 Farragut Avenue, 11 o'clock on Saturday.
Thank you. I may not be able to attend, but I'll probably send somebody in my stead. If you want that information, or everybody doesn't have that information, I'll have Ms. Frazier. I believe she did distribute the flyer to land use members. I received it. I don't know if she just sent it out to the board in general, but
Yes, it was sent out to all the committees. The
Okay.
members of the land use committee also receive a copy of it.
all right. I
All
think
committee members.
it'd be in our best interest to, show face and show up as a force, just to show that, our concerns are valid. Attendance is important. So if I can't be there, I'll try to send somebody to be there in my stead. Any other new business? Sorry, going to the chat. No new business. We've gotten here to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting for the Land Use Committee of December 1st, 2022? Oh. Anyone willing to make a motion? Unmute yourself.
I, Osney Lewis, make a motion to adjourn the Land Use Committee meeting of December 1st, 2022.
Adele Bennett seconded.
She second already.
Motion has been passed.
Speak. As the one you can understand.
You're unmuted.
Motion has been passed and seconded, and we're adjourned. Everyone have a good evening. Please contact me. I'm gonna put my number in the chat again, for any pressing issues that you may have, for anything that you want me to follow up on.
Find the chat.
Ms. James always makes me follow up on stuff, even though I'm getting ignored. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the push. I'm gonna place my number in the chat. Feel free to text me. Just make sure I get your name, or give me a name just so I know who you are. And I always be responsive and do the best that I can. There you go. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Didn't answer?
No, I saw Miss Thomas sent me a text, and I didn't see it. I was trying to. I guess I have to end the recording, Miss Frazier.
Seems like you're the last person there.
Yeah.
Say good night.